Okay, well, hey, welcome to this discussion about Cimitra. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to a little slide deck for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to actually get into software and show you this solution. That's a whole lot more interesting. First off, my name's Tay. I'm with a company called Cimitra. There's several of us involved in this project, and here's the idea is Cimitra is a zero rights administration solution. And this was born in the real world of customer need and things that I saw when I worked in the IT world. So basically, it's the ability to allow people to do things inside of IT systems. So think of like e-directory or Active Directory or GroupWise or Windows systems, Linux systems, firewalls, databases, the ability to maybe query information or change information, change systems and so forth, make modifications without having to know those tools, without having to actually have rights inside of those tools. That's the idea behind Cimitra. The whole idea is to be able to allow people on the help desk or people that have intelligence but don't have the expertise related to a certain system to be able to make changes to that system. So here's some use cases that I've just taken some screenshots here of. E-directory and Active Directory we already mentioned, and just several systems that you can basically, anything that you can get a console to or that has an API, you can go ahead and link commands or scripts to Cimitra and then execute them inside of Cimitra. And so why do we do this? Really, the goal behind Cimitra is to be able to resolve IT, workflow issues and so forth quickly, but without having to sacrifice rights. Because that's what we found is a lot of organizations, what they do is they kind of give a little too many rights to people because they want to be able to resolve things quickly, and or they're trying to hire all this staff and so forth that has the expertise, but that can be really costly, and so Cimitra helps to resolve that. And so the kinds of organizations that have benefited from Cimitra is organizations that are large enough to have help desks and so forth, and you also have to be kind of think outside the box, go, hey, you know what, it's all right for people on the help desk or people who don't even have any kind of IT related skills or job definitions to be able to do things inside of a system, so long as it seems logical to involve them. And so here's how Cimitra works: is you install a Cimitra server. So at your location, you'd have a Cimitra server. So this isn't something in the cloud and so forth. And then what you do is you deploy Cimitra agents to, those touch points where you have things that you want to control. So for example, let's say you've got e-directory, okay, or whatever they call it now, right? But anyways, let's say you've got the open text Novell e-directory kind of solution, and you want to be able to control that vis-a-vis Cimitra, vis-a-vis commands that make modifications to e-directory. You would deploy a Cimitra agent, say over on a Linux box, okay, that has e-directory on it. And then finally, you create users inside of the Cimitra system, and you create what's called actions. I'm going to show that all to you here in just a moment. So again, here's what you do is you go, okay, here's things, say to e-directory. We want to be able to share e-directory with a broader group of people, or Active Directory or GroupWise, people to be able to make changes. So think of like being able to change a password in GroupWise, or being able to change groups in eDirectory, or be able to do just a whole host of things, make changes to a firewall, whatever it is. And so you identify your use case, you create a script. We've already created several scripts for use inside of Cimitra. You connect that script to Cimitra, and that becomes a task that you give to a person, a user. We call them actions, and then they push a button and pretty much kind of like fill out a form, kind of like a Google form, and they click on run, and the thing that they've filled in, when they click on run, immediately takes action in whatever system you've given them the ability to make changes to. So these are again pre-made Cimitra practices that we've got, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to step into eDirectory for a moment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log into my Cimitra server, and going to kind of take you behind the scenes. I'm going to log in as this user called eDiradmin, and we've got the eDirectory practice deployed here, and I can go ahead and create a user inside of eDirectory. Now, typically I would use a tool like this, like iManager, okay? And so I would go into a particular OU and I'd say, okay, I want to create a user, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and, okay, I'm going to say new, here we go. And I'd say create user, all right? We're going to simulate that though, or we're not even going to simulate, we're going to actually do this, but inside of Cimitra, okay? So here we go. We're going to create a user inside of Cimitra, but in reality, we're creating it inside of eDirectory. Again, why do we do this? Because we don't want to give the end users that use this tool access to this very powerful tool that allows them to do way more things than we would want them to do. We just want people to be able to create users, and then we want to be able to share that ability to create users with other people. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, in the administration context, I'm going to make Cobus Burgers. Okay, just because we probably all know and love that name, and so I'm going to go ahead and create this user Cobus, and I'm going to just go ahead and make some kind of a password, and I'm going to say he's in information technology and he is an engineer, and I'm going to go ahead and give him a phone number and something, just whatever, right? And then I'm going to even add him to some eDirectory groups. All right, so again, this user Cobus, I'm going to be making in the administration context. So inside of here, in this context, I'm going to make a user called C Burgers. So let me go ahead and click on run, and here's what's happening is there's a Cimitra agent deployed to the Linux box that's got iManager deployed at it and so forth, and that agent is basically taking the commands that I'm passing vis-a-vis a script, and then going ahead and doing LDAP commands to create this user Cobus Burgers. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and there's Cobus. All right, with all the information that I filled in. So pretty cool, right? Now let me just take you behind the scenes, because I'm logged in as this admin user, so I can actually take you behind the scenes and show you kind of what is happening here. Okay, so you see we've got a title here, we've got a Cimitra agent. Okay, so if I go over here to agents, you see this agent right here? That's the agent that's deployed over on a Linux box, okay? And so let's go back here again. And so there's that agent. We're saying, hey, run bash and run this script. Remember, we talked about that we have some predefined scripts that you can deploy for various systems that you might have. And in this case, I'm showing you eDirectory. I could show you Active Directory just as well, but we're going to do eDirectory right now. And so this is a script, and this script just takes commands, okay? And those commands are inside of this form, in a sense, that we've created, and those commands then all really boil down to LDAP commands effectively, okay? And those LDAP commands are the commands that are used in order to create this user functionality inside of Cimitra, okay? So in fact, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create an action because I want to show you how simple this is, okay? Let's just say that I want to create an action here that's running out on that Linux box, okay? Here we go. And we're not going to use an interpreter. We're just going to do something like ls/tmp, okay? And that's really it. I'm not going to fill in anything more. I'm going to go ahead and click on create, and you see that little test button, okay? I'm going to click on run. Now, here's what happens is that Cimitra agent sitting over on that Linux box calls home every 5 seconds, says anything for me to do, and the server said, yeah, go ahead and run ls/tmp, send me back the results, and that way I can display it for the end user, but I also can audit this later on and see who did what. And so I can see either admin ran this command called test and also go back and jump in the time machine and see that, okay? But now I've shared this ability to do all of these actions to a user called eder@cimitra.com. So let's go ahead and show you their experience. Ed Irwin, eder@cimitra.com, is just a test user that we have that's open to the world because you can't do any damage with it. You can't go back and change anything behind the scenes. You can see here you don't have the ability to edit anything. You can just go ahead and click on run. So Ed Irwin can run this test command also, or can go ahead and create a user and so forth. And basically, Ed Irwin is similar to a help desk user, okay? And so this is the whole idea, is the ability to allow other people to take actions inside of these very powerful systems, but limited action, okay, with truly zero rights to that system. Now, it might very well be that Ed does have some rights inside of iManager. You could do that, but you don't have to do that. Ed can just be someone that you trust, but you don't have to give them rights inside of eDirectory or GroupWise or Active Directory, whatever, again, whatever the system is. But Ed can now participate and do these little actions inside of Cimitra. Whole goal is to move things off of the plate of the specialists and allow generalists, or tier 1 and tier 2 kinds of folks to be able to do things. I know IT departments that are using this where they have people that are all IT people kind of at the same level, but they don't have the same job functions. So think of a person who is familiar with a database and has a lot of database expertise, and then another person that needs information out of database and needs to make changes in a database, but doesn't have the expertise to be able to do that. And so they're able with Cimitra to be able to perform their job function, kind of delve into the database, but with very safe controls vis-a-vis Cimitra, and they're not having to issue these SQL commands that the database expert has. These SQL commands are just, bolted right inside of Cimitra, and they're performing those commands and performing those actions vis-a-vis Cimitra. So anyways, that's the notion behind Cimitra. Now, I want to now just give you a quick demonstration of Cimitra outside of the world of eDirectory. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log in as a user GW. This is a GroupWise demonstration account, okay? And we're going to show you here, for those of you that might be familiar with Cimitra, with GroupWise. GroupWise generally runs on the Linux platform. It can run on Windows too, but in order to restart processes, which is a really common remedy inside of the Linux world, restarting processes or checking processes and so forth, we can go ahead and perform those Linux commands, but inside of Cimitra. So here I'm actually issuing a command to check the status of a service. Now, let's say that I realize that I need to stop and start what's called a group-wise MTA. Just think of it, it's a process. Think of like a service on Windows and so forth. So it's a process that we're just stopping and starting, okay? So there we go. I stopped this process, and then I can go ahead and I can start the process, okay? This is really applicable to like the Windows world also. Think of like a print server that you need to stop and start. Now, you can also even put in some nifty little safety controls here. Like, wow, this is like, someone's restarting a group-wise POA. Those of you that are familiar with group-wise, how important it is that you only stop this if you really need to do so. But I can sit there and give them a prompt, okay, to say, do you really want to do this? And so they can go ahead and do that, or they can back away. Okay, so I've restarted that group-wise POA. But now I'm going to show you another user here. We're going to kind of delve into the Windows world here for a second, okay? And let's talk about here we go. Okay, here we go. So I've got a print server. Okay, so this is sitting on a Windows server. I could take you back over to the Windows server and show you the Windows print services, but no reason to do that. Those of you that are familiar with Windows might know how that works, and so this is a ability to do a print server report. This came from a real world scenario where we had an organization with now 50 printers, and there was only one person that was really able to administer those printers, but there was lots and lots of people that were impacted by the fact that only this one person could take control and clear print jobs or restart the print server process and so forth. And so this was a way with Cimitra to be able to take that workload and stretch it across to multiple people that could go in and could take and could restart a print server, or they could find a print queue job that needed to be cleared and so forth. And so we created this very powerful way for them to do this. This took us about a day or two to make this practice for them. Now you might think, well, gee, this looks pretty fantastic. You're able to issue these commands. I don't know how to do that. That's no problem. Our friends over at NETCB can consult with you on how to do that. They have the expertise, and what they don't have expertise with, they can kick it back to us, and we can work in partnership with them. So that's part of the reason we wanted to work with NETCB, is that they have a really competent crew of folks that can really bring this forward for you folks there in Africa, and give you this powerful functionality. So anyway, so now I've shown you the ability to make changes, like to a print server, and I have very much the same idea here, that I can modify users here on Active Directory, for example. So I have an Active Directory tree. I'm not going to take you behind the scenes there, but I'm going to just go ahead and click on Run, and we're going to see all of the user in a context called administration. And then I can go and I can modify one of those users. And so I'm going to go ahead and take this user, Bill Witt, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of think of like I'm double clicking on B Wit. Okay, so I went into that context. I listed all the users. I double clicked on B Wit. And I'm seeing these attributes to Bill Witt that I want to see. So this is as though I've double clicked on that user, and I'm seeing this information. And you can notice here that he doesn't have an office phone. So let's go ahead and let's modify Bill Witt, and let's give him a office phone. Okay, and so I'm going to just do something random, and I'm going to click on Run, and bada bing, I'm vis-a-vis a PowerShell set of commands, in this case, making modifications. And you can see now that Bill Witt has this phone number that I've filled in. So kind of cool stuff. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment. I want to make this relevant if we have any questions. So I'm going to ask the folks over back on, okay, the side of NETCB and the net.Share folks. Any questions so far? Okay. I don't know if you have the ability to kind of come to the backstage and tell me something. So I'm going to just
Hi,
proceed.
Tay. Nothing so
Okay,
far. Sorry to
nothing
interrupt.
so far. Okay, great. So I'm going to, okay, are you understanding what I'm saying?
Perfectly.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. Um, okay, good. So, yeah, so again, just to kind of come back around, and I think that you've seen that with Cimitra, you are able to make changes to complicated systems, but without having to have all these special rights. I'm going to take you back behind the scenes here for a second to a different user. Um, and I'm going to take you, remember that print server practice that we were using? Again, which is in this case, it's just a PowerShell command. And so installing these inside of Cimitra is really, really easy. It's an import process. And so this is really just a PowerShell script. But just to give a little bit more color to what's happening here is there's an agent here, okay, running over on that Windows box. And this is a Windows service, okay, and that agent then is calling home to the server every 5 seconds. Now, here's what's kind of cool about this architecture is the server doesn't have to push the information out to the agent. The agent is calling home to the DNS server address and the port for the Cimitra server. So what's kind of cool about this architecture is you don't actually have to have the server get a hold of the agent. There's no requirement, that they even be on the same network. Okay, you literally could have a Cimitra agent deployed in. Oh, I'm here in Utah. Okay, and you can have the server deployed. Well, the server here in this case is at a data center in Florida. Okay, and so the Florida server doesn't have to get a hold of an agent sitting here in Utah. The agent in Utah dials home to the server every 5 seconds and says, hey, anything for me to do? Yes, no. And in this case, if I'd pushed the button, it would have said, yeah, go ahead and run PowerShell space and then run this command. You're going to find this command sitting on your local C drive on that Windows box. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and pass it these various commands. What's also nice is if there's any kind of free form text that you allow people to fill in. So I'm just going to take you there for a second. And so let's take this user onboarding and then this modify user. You notice that there's places where people can fill in a value, okay? And so, but you can also say vis-a-vis what's called validating regex. Don't worry, you don't have to be a professional at this, okay? Any place we've got any kind of these things, you can click on the help and it'll take you out to our help screen and we'll show you what you might fill in for the validating regex. So we've indicated these are the characters that we allow them to use for a user ID, okay, or for a first name and so forth, okay. And then that gets passed to the script. So what's kind of cool is I'm sitting on a server in Florida issuing these commands, and then the agent might be sitting over on a Windows box in Africa. And yet I'm able to control that Windows box in Africa with no VPN connection, simply because we've deployed this trusted agent over to that location. So that is how that works. And then finally, we create users. And so you add a user. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you, this Adele user that we logged into. You remember we logged in as ad@cimitra.com. And this is the user Adele. And you notice that they're not an administrator or an auditor or anything like that. They just are, just a user. And then we went ahead and we shared this user onboarding folder with Adele and another user. But anyway, so and I can share this with other people, okay, very, very simply. And now they can participate in these actions that we want to share with those individuals. And so that's how it works. So you have actions that you can create, and we created one together. You can see that you create users, you create agents. I'm not going to go through that. That could be that'll take a moment. But we have very good documentation for all of this. And then finally, I want to show you that we also have the ability to show schedules. And so, I'm sorry, we have the ability to create scheduled actions. So for example, if I come over here and I look at print server, manage print server, let's not do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as a different user where this is a little bit more relevant. I'm going to log in as GW admin. Okay. And because I know that they've created a scheduled, here we go. See this group-wise system status, which is really just a Linux command, okay? I've gone ahead and I've said, hey, go ahead and run this at some kind of an interval. In fact, let's go ahead. You notice it goes on every day at 5 minutes after midnight. And so I'm going to go ahead and find this group-wise system status here. And so I'm going to say group-wise system status, okay, and click on search. And there we go. You can see that this runs every single day. And see this cron scheduled item. So I can see what the status was on that given day and that time that was scheduled for. Okay. And then I also showed you that, that you can audit any kind of an action. So what's kind of cool is you've given this powerful ability for other people to be able to do things. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to see what they did? And so that's that auditing functionality. And so you can sit there and look at what people did and be able to kind of unwind when something happened, and then you can even assign auditors inside of Cimitra, so that they can go and audit everything that goes on. So there's actions, audit, schedule. I've showed you schedule, users, agents, and settings isn't very exciting. That's just like your license and so forth. But that is, the idea behind Cimitra. So I've got lots and lots of actions that I can demonstrate for you here. Let me do maybe one last final one that might be kind of interesting. In fact, I want to show you this one, modify group-wise user phones. Okay, I've shared this with a user by the name of Sid. Okay, so I'm going to log in as Sid at Cimitra.com, and we've made all of these test users available to the public from our website. So when you go and you look at our documentation, we say, hey, just log in as this user and you can see how this works. And so this is a real world scenario. Okay, we had an organization where they had a person that was at kind of the front desk that wasn't in any way in IT, but happened to know that people's phone numbers changed. Okay, they had a mobile workforce with about 200 people, and this receptionist in this case always knew when people's phone numbers would change. They call him the receptionist, and prior to Cimitra, what would happen is they would the receptionist then would have to hand that up to the IT desk, and then someone would go into, in this case, it was Active Directory, and they'd make changes. And that way everyone would see in their Outlook and so forth, they could see, the phone number changes. And that way they had a way to contact people. Well, what we did was, in their case, what they did was, they gave this receptionist the ability to be able to change phone numbers. So let me just show you kind of how this worked. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to remember how we had a user by the name of Bill Witt. Okay, so let's imagine that the receptionist now wants to change Bill Witt's phone number. All right. And so I'm going to go ahead and she'd go, okay, oh yeah, Bill Witt. All right. So now she'd take B Witt, okay, and then she'd go ahead and she'd get the user information for B Witt. Now I want to show you here, she can't change the title and so forth. She can just change phone numbers, can't even change the names. That's just a way of finding Bill Witt. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and click on run and show you here. She can only make changes to Bill Witt's phone number, but you also notice she can only see the information that I've given her to see about Bill Witt. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to modify Bill Witt, and I'm going to go ahead and put in a correct number for Bill Witt, we'll say, okay, and click on run. So again, this is this ability to change just the smallest detail, and the ability to give people access to the smallest amount of detail that you want. Maybe there's all kinds of information you don't want this receptionist to see. Sure enough, you can do that with Cimitra. That's just, it's just a script behind this. And again, we don't have enough time to get into how we do that, but very, very simple stuff. Okay, well, I think my time is really probably just about up. So I'm going to turn it back over to our friends at the NetShare stage, and just encourage you to take a look at Cimitra, come to our booth. You can contact me, Tay, T-A-Y, at Cimitra.com, and we'd love to talk to you. Okay, back over to you.
Oh, thanks a lot, Tay.
You
I think
bet.
this was quite interesting. I hope that people learned something. Unfortunately, there wasn't any questions asked. I just want to check the Q&A as well. No, there weren't any questions asked.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe tomorrow you have another session?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I think people that were attending the other session running at the same time most likely will attend your session then tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you,
So
Cobus. Go ahead.
That concludes actually the last series of sessions for today. It's been a long day for us.
Yeah, I can imagine, Cobus.
And your day is only starting now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Cobus.
Okay, keep well. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.